As a highly technical, formula-based computing language, MATLAB is perhaps less dependent on user input than languages like Java or C++ that are often based around a GUI. However, it still has several important commands that can be used to wait for and process user input. For this video, we'll use the responsivepractice.m file in exercise files. This is a simple script that calculates a number of sample statistics from a set of stock prices. But right now, everything is calculated immediately. Running the function will immediately output a list of all of these sample statistics, including the plot. It's often more user-friendly, though, to calculate one result at a time, waiting for user input between each one. The simplest function that can do this is pause. This function, which requires no inputs, causes your script to stop until the user presses any key. Adding a numerical input in the form of pause, parentheses, and then a number causes the program to wait for that number of seconds and then continue on its own. Pausing can also be disabled globally through the command pause off and then re-enabled through the pause on command. Let's add a pause command in front of standard deviation of stocks, and then add a pause 3 command in front of the median. When the script is run, the script will calculate the mean, wait until the user presses a key, calculate the standard deviation, wait 3 seconds, and then continue with the rest of the program. The input command is a slightly more complicated way of waiting for user response. This command has the syntax input of a prompt in single quotes, where the prompt is the string that will be displayed on the command line when the command runs. It then waits for the user to type input into the window and press enter before continuing. The input is returned by the input function, so it can then be stored in a variable by writing a line of the form result equals input of prompt. For instance, going back to the responsive practice editor, I'll add the line true mean equals input of test mean within single quotes before the mean squared errors test. Then running the function will have the user press any key, wait 3 seconds, and then ask the user for a guess at the true mean and run a mean squared errors test based on that guess instead of always using 1200. MATLAB automatically attempts to evaluate the entered text as a normal command, which means that users can reference variables in the workspace, call functions, or use any form of normal arithmetic in their input. MATLAB will automatically detect the type of the data created by the input and then assign the variable to that type. If you don't want the user to run commands, you can modify the input statement to read input of the prompt, S in single quotation marks. This tells MATLAB to interpret whatever the user types as a string literal without evaluating expressions. This means that the variable to which the input is assigned will now be a string. So if you wanted to use that variable as a number later on in your function, you would need to use the num2str command on the variable.